Can we have the roll call, please?
Bruce Miller, Kirk Martin, Craig Arcuri,
Here.
Carl Hopkins,
Here.
Dolores Johnson,
Here.
Karen Kahn,
Here.
Jim Wilson.
Here.
Okay. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
And this is the time reserved for public comment. Do we have any public comment slips?
No slips.
No slips. Okay. That brings us to notices that on Thursday, January 15th at 5:30, the Airport Commission Secretary duly posted this agenda on the bulletin board at Airport Administration. Minutes. Do I hear a recommendation regarding the minutes of the last meeting?
I move that we waive the reading and approve the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, December 17th.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And that brings us to the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion regarding the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar as stated.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? The consent calendar has been approved. Our liaison reports. The City of Santa Barbara Liaison Council Member Frank Hotchkiss. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, we've been looking for a new, or appointing a new city administrator. We had 37 candidates, which we have narrowed to 2, and you'll be hearing, I think, our final decision in the next couple of weeks. Reporting on year-end TOT tallies, up 14%. Nothing but good news there. Don't go spending it, however. And finally, coming up next week, the International Film Festival, which should bring lots of hungry tourists to our happy town. Thank you.
Thank you. And our City of Goleta Liaison Council Member Michael Bennett.
Nope.
Here? Not here. And that brings us to commission matters, which I think we might leave till the end of the meeting pending the arrival of perhaps another member.
We can certainly do that.
I think that way we'll at
Push
least-
to the last agenda item.
Okay. Do any of the commission members have any preference on that subject?
I think moving it to the end is a good idea.
Good idea.
Okay. And that then brings us to item 7, administrative reports.
Mhm.
And we will
Get
Take
into
it
it.
away.
Yes, thank you. The next item is the fiscal year 2015 interim financial statement for the airport department, and also just a brief look at the performance objectives that we have achieved through the end of December. Some of the indicators that we're looking at for the budget, obviously passenger traffic is something we mark and track all the time, but currently we're down 10%. We anticipated being down like 13%, if you remember last year when we lost American Airlines flights to Los Angeles, so we're doing a little bit better than that. GA activity has increased. We do see more landing fees and fuel flowage fees. The rental cars, this is really an anomaly, they're up 17%, which generally it tracks with passenger traffic, but the local rental car companies are renting a lot of the fleet to non-airline passengers, but rather to community members who want to rent a car. So that's really good for us as far as the percentage reports that we receive, and also the customer facility charge, because it tracks with each contract. Concessions are also up 9%, which you wouldn't think that because of the passenger decrease. But a lot of that depends on when the flights actually go out. And if they're hovering around a mid-morning, around lunchtime, or an evening departure, passengers tend to eat and drink and buy more gifts. So we're benefiting from that as well. Commercial industrial, as you know, our vacancy, we have an increased number of properties that are vacant. and that is having an impact on our budget. This gives you a snapshot of each one of our lines of business and where we stand with our 2014 second quarter to give you a fair comp, and then our revised 2015 budget compared to the second quarter. So we have generated $7.9 million, which is about 3% above budget target. And it's also just almost 2% above 2014. As we mentioned before, the 2 vacant properties are just about to be complete, at least no longer vacant, hopefully. Once again, GA activities up. Rental car contracts are up 4.4% over the prior year. The fleet mix for the commercial airlines, United's using more jet aircraft when they were flying to Los Angeles. Now they're adding more jets to go to San Francisco. That's going to increase our revenues from the boarding bridge because they'll now be using boarding bridges as opposed to ground loading. Our landing fees will go up because the weight of the aircraft is greater. And hopefully our passenger count will go up because we're increasing our seat capacity by going from a 30-passenger turboprop to a 50-passenger regional jet. So hopefully now we just need to market and get those seats filled. We also had a one-time reimbursement from the Goleta Water District. We had overpaid a water bill, and we only overpaid it because they billed us, but they were having all kinds of difficulties with their billing system. But we did get a late reimbursement, so that's really for the prior year, but that's under miscellaneous income. So here's our operating fund expenditures. Salaries and benefits, we're still under. We still have some vacant positions. We're really holding tight on our expenditures. We do have encumbrances that are not listed here, but are considered part of our obligation should we spend all that for the year. The other item I wanted to point out is special projects, where you see the 97% variance. Recall that we stopped using Lot 2, our parking lot, so the shuttle expense and the employee expense is no longer being charged. So we're saving money on that regard. So our expenditures are $7.1 million, so we're about 10% under our operating expenditure budget. And a little bit above, not too bad, 5.2% over 2014. I mentioned salaries and benefit vacancies, encumbrances, and then the long-term lot. Our operating fund exceeded $830,000. We do have a rollover budget that came in at the end of the fiscal year. Any open contract will roll over to the next year, so we have $317,000 for that. We're looking at Frontier Airlines. We had an airline rates and charges meeting today, and we're going to pursue having Frontier Airlines pay for their exclusive space and the portion of the joint use space that's based on a 20%. We have a formula that 20% of the cost is allocated to each airline, 80% is based on market share. We're going to pursue this $315,000 for this year, and hopefully Frontier will honor the agreement and pay it. I'm sort of skeptical because typically if an airline pulls service, they pull service and they disappear, but we are going to pursue Frontier for this portion. Yes, Commissioner Khan.
Oh, just a slight technical. I noticed in your very nice graphic of the Santa Barbara Airport, it has a Frontier tail in it. Perhaps it might be
Time to
appropriate
change.
to switch to.
It was a cute tail, though, wasn't
Oh,
it?
it was lovely, unless we can entice them back and say, we'll leave it there as long as you pay us the.
Yeah, that would be nice. Our capital fund, we anticipate using some of our revenues to our reserves to make capital improvements. structural improvements to the old Elephant Bar restaurant. We have submitted our capital program to FAA, and so we will be receiving a new grant this year, but we're also completing our current year project and the runway 15 left, 33 right. That's just about done. If not, we may be doing some striping or something, but it's almost complete. And in the PFC fund, you'll recall, we started that application prior to the time that we commenced construction on the terminal, because a portion of the debt service is paid with PFC's, passenger facility charge fees. And so right now we have about $3.3 million in reserve because we collected while we were under construction and had capitalized interest. And that's a good reserve to have. Should our passenger count go further down, at least we have the reserves to pay our debt, and that's important. I can't pay more than the annual amount, unfortunately, but at least we have that in reserves for that purpose. The CFC fund, that's the customer facility charge. That's the amount of money. Each rental car contract is a $10 fee, and that money goes to pay the debt service on the quick turn facility that we constructed for the rent-a-car companies. And as you can see, we're almost 60% of the budget, and it's really due to local rental of rent-a-cars. The T-Hanger fund, our revenues over, it's exceeding budget by 2.2%, which is really good. We've really strived to keep those T-Hangers rented. And that program, you'll recall, has debt through a loan with the State Aeronautics Board. So the rent that we get from the T-Hangers goes to pay that debt service.
Hazel,
Our-
can you
yes.
tell me what the rent is on the T-hangers, and do they vary from hangar to hangar?
I would have to defer to Rebecca Fribley or get back with you, because I don't know off the top of my head. T-Hanger rental,
I believe right now it's at $751.
you need to be at
a
the mic,
month. Sorry.
please.
They're currently at $751 a month plus $10 for electricity, but they are going up, I believe, to $774 beginning in February.
Thank you.
Always of interest to us is our reserves. Council policy reserves for economic contingency is 15% of the budget. Future year's budget is 10%. And then capital varies based on how much we're spending in our airport-funded capital program. But as of June 30, 2014, we had $4.2 million fully funded in the reserves, and a touch of money, $80,000 above policy reserves.
So it's that number that will drop for the capital improvements. Where will the,
Capital improvements, we have in the, I didn't put it up here, that's a good question, Commissioner. In the capital improvement fund, it also has a reserve,
okay.
and that's where the funds will come from for this transfer. We have completed several of our objectives that we started the year, an internal review of the department, looking at our operation and programs, and especially the separation of security and operations. That's still ongoing. And we have revised the security program and submitted that to TSA. Once again, that gets revised pretty frequently, but we have met that objective for this year. Tracy conducted a tabletop exercise, which is part of our Part 139 obligation with FAA, to do that on an annual basis, and then every 3 years have the live drill. Hopefully you've had a chance to go to the terminal and see the charging station that we put in the bag claim area. It is ADA accessible, and it's my understanding that it's used frequently. People just plug in for a quick charge, and that's a great service at no cost to anyone. And as you know, Jeff reported recently on our project at MirrorPro, replacing the turf there with drought-tolerant landscaping, which will reduce our water use as well as change the look of the facility. That completes my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Yes, I believe you said that the commercial revenue is down 7.9% so far.
Yes.
And if you pull the Wool Over Now big brand and the Elephant Bar lack of revenue out of that, would we be down or up? And if so, by how much?
I believe would still be a touch under, I believe, but we would pretty much come close.
The bulk of that
13 and
7.9
10
is those two
25.
facilities then?
It would it is, because that would probably provide $250,000 in revenue.
Okay,
So that would come real close to closing the gap.
thank you.
Mhm.
And does this particular item need any kind of a vote, or this was just informational?
Just information to accept the report.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, the lease agreement with High Sierra Grill House.
This is a major achievement. And we're really pleased to present, Rebecca's going to do the presentation, but we're really pleased to present the proposed lease. We've had discussions about this for some time, many months, and it will be let me just read this. It's an agreement with, it's an access and license agreement with 3 5-year options with High Sierra Grill, Inc., Santa Barbara, a California corporation for the building and the land at 521 Norman Firestone. And it's going to be effective upon the completion of our improvements, which hopefully will be within the next 9 months or thereabouts. And the beginning rent is just a little over $12,000 a month. Rebecca?
Thank you. You may want to note that between the time that we published this agenda, we were informed by High Sierra Grill that they actually had incorporated a new entity to operate the restaurant, so the formal name will be High Sierra Grill Santa Barbara, Inc. So the restaurant building was vacated by the prior tenant in September of 2013. And at that time, because staff did not have the experience of trying to find tenants for a restaurant, we decided that we would look at the Radius Group or other groups. We did an RFP and selected the Radius Group to represent us with an exclusive listing arrangement for both the former Wooliver Tire Store spot and the Elephant Bar. We have received, I am pleased to say, a proposal at this time from High Sierra Grill Santa Barbara, Inc. The proposal has been vetted by the Radius Group, and we have reached a negotiated agreement. The proposed services that they intend to have include serving both breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They do intend to pursue catering opportunities, providing meeting space for local organizations, which I know was something that this commission was very interested in. They are interested in hosting special events and also interested in possibly having live music on Friday and Saturday nights. The menu is a full breakfast menu, and they're intending to have a Sunday morning buffet. They have a wide variety of foods, including burgers, pizza, sandwiches, steaks, wood smoked barbecue, et cetera, and they're looking at some specially themed gaucho entrees. They would like to tie that into UCSB. And just as a side note, I did actually go to Fresno and go to several of their outlets and had some very good tri-tip that they smoked on site. So I can personally recommend the food and also the ambiance. They had a number of customers that were returning customers. Their shops were full, and it was a very, very positive experience. They are also going to be having a full bar. The tenant improvements that they're going to be putting in mostly have to do with refreshing the interior finishes. They're going to paint the interior, replace floor coverings, light fixtures, looking towards getting energy efficient light fixtures. They're going to be adding a new French door to the patio because they do intend to have events and they want to facilitate movement between the restaurant and the banquet spaces and the outside patios. They're going to be repainting the exterior, and their style includes, because as the name implies, it has to do with the Yosemite Valley. They do a lot of wood and a lot of rock, and they're going to be doing some exterior cladding to the wooden posts on the front and some repainting to kind of express that theme. They're also going to be replacing some of the exterior lighting fixtures on the building. The city improvements are fairly extensive. In the last 5 years of the lease, the Elephant Bar, which was responsible for maintenance, didn't do a whole lot of maintenance, so we actually brought in contractors that did a pretty extensive inspection of not only the building structure, but also of all of the systems within the building. And some of the things that we are going to be undertaking in the 9 months prior to the start of the rent are the roof replacement. We'll have electrical code upgrades. A new sewer line will be run to the kitchen and the employee restroom. HVAC replacement, including all of the ductwork. We'll be doing termite tenting and any wood repair that's required. ADA upgrades, fire suppression system for the restaurant if required. High Sierra will be handling the fire suppression system in the kitchen. We will be leveling floors as required for ADA, and we'll also be repairing the exterior irrigation and lights. The rental that we're proposing in year 1 through 3 would be $1.46 per square foot per month, or $12,694. That is a base rent without utilities. And then it gradually escalates over the first 10 years of the lease, so that in year 9 it would be at $15,737. Following the expiration of the initial term of the lease, each 5 years thereafter we would have an adjustment to fair market rent. And more than likely that would be by appraisal, but it could also be by negotiation. However, in no case would it be less than the rent from the previous year. Brokerage fees for the Radius Group based on this lease will amount to a total of $74,968, which will be paid upon execution of the lease. The funding for the brokerage fees will be included in the airport operating fund. We are asking that Airport Commission recommend that City Council approve this lease agreement as proposed with the High Sierra Grill Santa Barbara, Inc. And I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Mario Medina, who will be the operating partner for the new restaurant. And he's here to tell you a little bit about their plans for the restaurant and also to answer any questions that you might have.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Thank you. So as she said, she's put together a great presentation. I don't know, there's a whole lot more that I can say about what we intend to do with the building, other than that I have 2 other business partners, and we jointly have a total of 5 restaurants in the Fresno area. I don't know if some of you recognize me. I also have Mulligan's Cafe at the municipal golf course, and I've been there for 22 years. My family and myself, I had 3 daughters and a son, and they were all little, and now they're all out of college, and they're still working with us there, even though they have their own career. And we've been tenants of the city of Santa Barbara for 22 years, and we have had a great success at Mulligan's, and now, on top of that, with the 2 business partners I have in the Fresno area and the restaurants I have up there, we put together I have 30 plus years of experience in the food business, and the other 2 business partners actually have more than I do. I'm the youngest of the 3 partners. So they actually have a little bit more than I do, I just can tell you that, you know, if you give us the opportunity to come to this building and have this lease and, you know, that restaurant right next door to us here, it's going to be a big plus to the community. You know, there's a lot of people in the area that know me from being here for so long. And the concept that we're bringing down from the valley, it's something that, you know, we just don't have in this area. You know, the uniqueness of, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, but yet, you know, the barbecue, you know, smoking of meats and, you know, pizza section that can attract, you know, the college students and the kids, along with a nice seafood menu that we have on our menu. You know, some Mexican food, which Mulligan's is got to be known for authentic Mexican food, so we'll have a section of that. So we have a pretty unique menu to offer, in which I think hopefully families, you know, a large number of members in the family are going to be able to pick us to come to, because we have something for everyone. You know, you feel like a steak, we have it. You feel like seafood, we have that. You know, cipino plate. I mean, we're going to really, and they have a copy of our menu. I didn't bring one with me. It was short notice when I found out that I was invited to be here. But it's a very unique menu, and I'm very excited to be part of that. And I'm hoping that we can get things done quickly and get over here and open it up.
Mario, you want to tell them a little bit about the process that you go through when you advertise the opening of a new restaurant?
We, the partners and I we're very big believers of, you know, heavy marketing and involvement with the community. So just about 10 years ago, we opened up our first restaurant in Fresno as a group, the three of us. And, you know, 10 years later, we have now 5 within the same area. And we never go looking for a building. Usually somebody tells us about a building and say, you know, come over here. And, you know, so we always say, you know, I think we're done. We're not going to open any more restaurants. And here we're looking at number 6, actually number 7, if it includes the one that my family and I own. So what we do for openings is, you know, we go through a great degree of detail of hiring the right type of people that is going to fit into our concept. We do extensive training prior to opening, you know, just hours and hours of training. We go after our suppliers and we ask them to team up with us and help us with food and, you know, product so that we can practice, you know, with what we're trying to do. And we actually have mock openings, and we do several of them. We will do one in which the people that we have hired, and by the way, we're planning on about 100 to 120 employees to hire for this building, okay, to start. So what we do is we actually have every one of our employees that we hired invite a friend, and that is the very first mock opening. So we will actually fire up all the equipment and turn on all the lights, and just like we're going to be open, and we get to practice on those friends of our employees and cook. And we ask them, be picky, pick up items out of the menu randomly. In fact, some of the times we actually hand you a card. So this is what you're going to be ordering. And try and make it really complicated, like no lettuce or extra mayonnaise, or, you know, allergic to something. And our job is to try and accomplish that. When we're done with that and we did it right, if we didn't do it right, we might do another run with the same. If we've done it okay, then we move on to the next, and now we get to invite a few selected friends and family that we know and bring them out and do another one. And now we do, you know, where we say, you're coming in at this hour, you're coming in at that hour, and you're coming in, you're gonna get seated by our hostess, you're gonna be waited on by our servers, and our bartenders are gonna make you the drinks. And it's just, again, practice. At some point, we'll do one VIP pre-opening day, and that's where we're actually going to say, Hazel, you know, commissioners, city councilman, hopefully the mayor, and, you know, officials, chief of police, the fire department, We bring them all out, and now we're really gonna go all out and take care of you, and hopefully we do everything right. Because that's our last chance at making sure that we are ready to open the restaurant to the public. Typically the following day, on a Monday. So this VIP mock opening is usually on a Sunday night, and Monday morning nothing failed, the equipment all worked okay, you all had a great time. Monday morning, we open up the business and we begin our relationship. So that's what we do. Any questions? I'll be more than happy to answer.
Back to you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think everyone in the community is certainly looking forward to having a restaurant back in there. So that's really exciting.
What are your hours of operation proposed?
We plan to open at 6 a.m. daily, and right now we're thinking 11 p.m. to close. And that closing part, it's up for adjustment. I mean, once we get moving and get to the operation days and we find out that, this part of Goleta turns sidewalk over at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m., we might say, 11 o'clock might be too late. We do believe that we're going to attract some of the college students. And from 9 to 11, I think that we should have no problem being busy with them here. And we will have the proper security, and I'll be the operator, and I will be here. When I opened Mulligan's up, when I took Mulligan's restaurant, my wife and I worked 7 days a week from opening to close for about a year and a half before we began to say, okay, now we can take some days off. And 22 years later, now I actually do have time to go on a vacation, and I have a home in Maui and a couple other places, and we enjoy ourselves. But we're opening this project. It's no different than when I started Mulligan's. I'm going to be here to make sure that everything falls into place before I can start thinking about taking a day off. So.
I'll just tell you, one of the interesting things I saw recently at the Portland, Oregon Airport restaurant, which happened to have, specials for employees since it's a very large restaurant. But one of the things they did, which was interesting, was a late evening happy hour, encouraging people to come 9 to 11 or whatever their last hours were.
We will have multiple happy hours. In Fresno, we have, depending on the area that we're at, the 5 restaurants, there are some that we have a 2 to 4 happy hour, and then happy hour ends, and then starts up again at 9 and goes to closing. There's some of the other ones that we just do like a, typical 3 to 7 type of thing. So we will adjust to do the happy hour and the discounted menus throughout the day based on what's needed. If you go to Soto's, I think that is a restaurant that has multiple happy hours. You can go there, and there's a happy hour in the morning for a few hours, there's a happy hour in the afternoon, and there's a happy hour at night, at the end. It's, when do you want to, when do you need help to bring the extra group of people, and we will do that. We will offer discounts. We're going to have on our menu, we have a regular menu, and then we have what's called a light menu section for all of the sections. So you can have a salad that is, this big, and then you can have the same salad but on a smaller portion of it for less price. So at Mulligan's, we have a senior menu, and then we have a regular menu. Here, we're going to go away from the senior menu only because because at Mulligan's, by the way, even though it's a senior menu on it, there's 12-year-olds that come in and order off of that. There's 22-year-olds that come and order off of that. We don't restrict it. So really, and the next menu coming to Mulligan's, I think that we're going to get rid of the senior menu part and just call it light menu section, which is smaller portions, smaller price. And at this menu that we're going to be offering here, we're going to have a pretty extensive light section. So you can have the same old burger that my son is going to have that is a half a pound, but as I'm getting older or I'm eating smaller amounts, I might go to the light section and have that 1/3 of a pound. Same burger, just smaller meat. Same with the salads. Same with the breakfasts, you know, you can have a bacon and eggs that is gonna have 4 big, thick pieces of bacon with your potatoes and your bread and your eggs. Or you can have the lighter side, and that's 2 pieces of bacon instead of 4, and, you know, half of the toast that you would have had on the other side, so.
I think you're making us all hungry.
That's right.
I know, so am I.
Let's
Let's
get
go to
on.
dinner.
My only complaint would be that a selection of menu items wasn't brought in while we're talking. Mouth-watering
So,
and thinking about the
so in
bacon and the potatoes.
In the very near future, as soon as, you know, I have a copy of the lease, the official ones, and of course, it has to have your stamp, and I think it has to have the city council stamp. As soon as that gets passed, at Mulligan's, we are going to have a mixer in which I'm going to invite several people, and, you know, we have a great big list of people, and we actually going to be creating or cooking some of those foods that we got on the menu. And we're gonna have like it's a mixer, it's a cocktail party in which we're gonna have, you know, the official menu and an easel, and we're gonna have food coming in throughout the evening, you know, ribs and chicken and, you know, all that good stuff. So, you know, I'm looking forward to that, and I'll make sure that, you know, we get all of you invited to that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mario.
Thank you.
A few questions. We're a very happy community, so I'm sure we'll appreciate all the happy hours. The establishments you have in Fresno, are they, so there's Mulligan's here, and then there's 4 up there, or 5?
There's 5 over there. So we have Mulligan's is my family and I,
Understood.
our little family place here for 22 years. The partnership, we began 10 years ago with the Yosemite Falls Cafe, and it has a bar. And within 5 years, we went from that one to having 4,
Are they
identically
all-
the same. They're all in Fresno.
Are they all the same name, or do they have different?
4 of them are all the same name, Yosemite Falls Cafe. And one of them is in Clovis, 3 of them are in Fresno, but as some of you may know, Fresno and Clovis is, you know, like Goleta and Santa Barbara. Then a year ago, we opened up our very first High Sierra. And basically what we done is we decided to change the concept, not because Yosemite Falls wasn't successful, and, you know, you're welcome to talk to Hazel about, you know, because she got some information about the Yosemite Falls, and they're very successful, they're very busy, they're very, you know, well operated. But we decided to try something different, so we went after High Sierra. And High Sierra, we got the idea from, if any of you have been around the San Luis Obispo area and gone to Firestone Grill, it's a barbecue place, you know, where you come up and you can either order off the front or you can sit at the bar and be waited on. And it's a very small menu, mostly all barbecues, you know, tri-tip chicken, ribs, salads, some burgers. Lots of TVs, which we are going to have lots of TVs. So we decided, you know, we want to do that. It seems less work than what we do with Yosemite Falls. It seems like it's easier to operate. Well, so we did that, but we realized that, you know, we didn't think it was as easy as we thought it was. And the idea of coming up to the front and ordering sounded good, but, you know, if you're right next to a university or a college, it sounded okay. Otherwise, we realized that, you know what, we got to be full service. So we basically adjusted to doing a similar menu to Firestone Grill with a whole lot more items on the menu, and we got full service.
Okay, thank you.
So that's what we have. So that's number 5.
And did you find out about this opportunity by searching out, or did we find you through the Radius Group?
Radius Group found me. I happened to go to Killer Bees. It's a gym by the Vons Shopping Center by San Marcos High School. And Paul Garmandella happens to go to that gym. So we're working out, and he's telling me one day while we're sweating, losing our pounds, he says, you know, I have a great location that I think you should look at. And at first, you know, I said, you know, Paul, we're done. We have plenty of restaurants. You know, I got more work than I can think I want to do anymore. I mean, I think we're good. And a few weeks went by, and he kept talking about it. And finally, one day, I said, I'll come with you, and I'll do a walk through this building. And I walked through it, and I said, I know what by the way, my background before I became self-employed was Carol's Restaurants. I spent 15 years working for David and Carol. Okay, and I work from San Diego to the Bay Area to Sacramento, and that was my area. And I was a troubleshooter, which means I got to go wherever there was a restaurant that wasn't either being profitable, or he had a health department problem, or it needed help. So I would go in, I determined what the problem was, I fixed it, and I reopened it, and I got it back on its feet, and I went on to the next project. So that was my background on that. But going back to what you were saying, it's just, I'm not even sure how to explain myself, but I think I mean,
I think, did you,
Yeah, my
question?
my main question was,
okay.
was it our marketing campaign
It-
that
it-
you were in, or?
it was Paul Garbandella that got
At
me.
the gym?
It was the
That's
gym
the
that
great
got me.
thing about
It was Paul Garbandella. The answer is Paul Garbandella talked me into it. I came to look at it. I thought it had a great potential, knowing what the Elephant Bar did. And after I got some financials from the Elephant Bar before they closed, we realized that we could do
You could make it
a
work.
whole lot better than they did. And they did a great job for a long time.
The-
Oh.
Other questions? Yeah,
One more. So, just out of curiosity, so the great, I mean, I know we're thrilled,
for staff.
but, it's great to hear that prior to doing this with your partners, you were working for Carol's going into troubled operations. So you're definitely not a rookie at this, which is wonderful. Just curious, that as you guys have opened these additional restaurants in Fresno, what would you say for the first year of operation is the biggest challenge you face opening a new location? And then as a follow-up, how are you going to address that here?
The biggest challenge, I think, on a new opening is always your staff that you hire, your employees. If you can hire the right employees and give them the proper training and the proper tools to execute your standards, you are going to succeed. And even if you're in an area which the customers are not imminent, they're not right next to you there, you can go out there and get them if you have the right staff, properly trained and ready to serve you and serve you right. And I think that if you can get that done, you can succeed. Example is Mulligan's. Mulligan's is not in the traffic way. I mean, you don't happen to be driving by and say, I should stop here and have a meal. You have to think of it as, this is what I gotta go to have a meal. And that it's a pretty tough project to do, but I think that we can do that. I mean, we know how to do that.
Okay, good. I think
Thank you.
a couple of other commissioners have some questions.
Yeah, I would like to speak to Mr. Medina's involvement in the operation of the restaurants. Over the holidays, my wife and I hosted a get-together for family and friends at Mulligan's, and I think there were 40 or 50 of us, and it was a buffet, and when it was time to eat, who was standing behind the line serving lasagna? It was Mario. He was there, and he was making sure that it all worked, and it did.
And we, the family at Mulligan's, we try to make that to be at standard, meaning that somebody in the family needs to be there. Again, because of the restaurants I have in Fresno, there's times that I have to go. And I drive up to Fresno and I spend a few days out there. My job at the companies in Fresno is actually not the everyday operation. That is in Hazel and Rebecca met them, and that is Manuel Perales. He's the president, I'm the vice president of those restaurants up there. So my job with the other restaurants is I'm the one that deals with the vendors. So I can do that from here. So I deal with the Heinz and the Hormels and those people, and I strike deals with them. And then that way I don't have to deal with Cisco or US Foods on determining what I gotta pay for the product that I get. So I make that, so that's why I'm able to be at Mulligan's. you know, and whenever we have a banquet, when we have a private party, we make it a project, one of the family members needs to be present. You know, we have great employees that have been there for a long time, but they're still just not employees.
Okay,
And having one of us in the family there, I think makes a big difference.
great, thanks. Couple more questions, I think?
I have a couple of questions for the staff.
Yes.
Is anybody else any more questions?
I have, I just
Mark?
wanted to commend you because I don't play golf, but we go to your restaurant exactly for that. The breakfast is wonderful. And it's wonderful that you're gonna be out here and employ so many people.
But thank you. And just to you, what you're saying, at Mulligan's, 65 to 70% of my business is from non-golfing business. Being in the middle of a golf course and not being in the middle of the street where you happen to be walking by and decide to come and have a meal. So I think that will answer a lot of people's questions as to, you know, what does he do? And that's
Thank
what
you.
we do.
Thank you,
Question-
Mario.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You said that it would take about 9 months from when? In other words, when does the 9 months start?
We will, as soon as we get a vote from commission, I don't think I missed that. Well, we still need to vote on the
Right.
document. But once we have that, we'll schedule the agreement for the next available city council meeting. And at that same time, we will go to council with the request to transfer funds from our capital reserve to allow us to begin construction on those improvements. And our staff has already pretty much done the scope of work. We're ready to go. But the lease agreement that we negotiated allows the airport 9 months to get all of our improvements completed. So after 9 months, then then Mario gets to go in and have a period of time before he opens. So I anticipate it's probably going to be close to a year before we actually open the doors.
Okay, because I believe the city council has to do a first reading and a second reading and a 30-day
That's correct.
waiver period. So there's 6 weeks from the first council meeting before the lease is official.
Right. That
You-
doesn't mean that we can't get
You
started.
can get started earlier.
Right.
And at the end of your 9 months, how long does Mario have to?
He has
Do the interior stuff?
rent-free for 6 months, but he could be making, and we've discussed this, that he could be making his own improvements on the inside, depending on where we are with our improvements.
Right.
I mean, if we move along and then the space inside is available, then he could come in even during that 9 months. So it's conceivable we could open 9 to 10 months.
And how long does he have after the 9 months if he?
He has rent-free for 6 months
Okay.
to get established and get opened and
Okay.
that sort of thing. But we haven't actually figured out the opening date yet. It all
Okay.
depends on when we get everything done and signed off.
So if my math is correct, it'll take about 5 years to recoup the 650,000,
Yes,
and after that, it'll be more revenue to our bottom line.
that's correct.
Okay.
How much of our capital reserve will this use? Or what will be left in the capital reserve, I guess is a better question.
Right now in the capital fund, we have about $850,000, I believe. We're anticipating, excuse me, $650,000 to $700,000.
Okay. So we'll have 100,000 or 200,000 remaining in reserve.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
most of these improvements would have had to be made to get a tenant into the building regardless of who the tenant
Right.
was or what the use was.
Correct.
You mentioned, Rebecca, that a lot of these problems are because the Elephant Bar had not maintained. With a new lease, who's responsible for maintenance so that sometime in the future, we're not back in this situation?
We actually crafted this lease like our standard leases. Over the years, we have found that it's better for the airport to maintain the structure and the tenant maintain the interior. And that's the way this building will work once the improvements are done. We'll maintain the exterior, the siding, the roof, the building systems that are on the roof, doors, windows, that sort of thing. The tenant will maintain any tenant improvements, so they would be responsible for landscaping if they put in landscaping. Any other things that they actually put in as part of their improvements, they'll be responsible, and they'll be responsible for maintaining the interior.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation that the commission recommend to the city council that it approve and authorize the airport director to execute a 10-year lease and with 3 5-year options with High Sierra Grill House Incorporated.
I recommend approval, move approval.
Second?
All in favor of approving the lease agreement, or recommending to the city council to approve the lease agreement?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it is so moved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, the item that was deferred,
Okay, yes, thank you all, and thank you, Commissioner Khan, for taking over in my unexpected absence. I think that takes us back to item 6. You covered item 7,
Yes,
the
we
budget.
skipped
Thank you
6,
very much.
hoping you would arrive.
All right, so that takes us to item 6, selection of officers and subcommittee assignments. We have several assignments and our subcommittees, and the re-election or election of a chair and a vice chair, and I will just take them in that order, and I will open it up for nominations with the chair, for the chair, and I will just start by nominating Carl Hopkins, who I think would do an excellent job. He has quite a bit of experience with the EAA and other such bodies, and certainly has the time and commitment and enthusiasm.
Second?
Great.
Yeah.
Any other nominations? If not, all in favor of appointing Carl Hopkins chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
That takes us to.
You're going to be a hard act to follow. I'll do my best.
All right, thank you. Vice chair, do we have nominations?
Well,
I'd like-
my thought would be, I mean, you are a tough act to follow, you've done a great job. So if you're willing to continue to serve in a capacity, I would nominate you as vice chair. So Carl has somebody. to
Thank you, I
refer to.
was going to do that, but I'll second it instead.
Okay, well, thank you all. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Subcommittee assignments, we have a number of openings. I'd also like to remind everybody that it's not required to be on a committee. If you've been on a committee, one of these subcommittees for quite some time, and you would wish to step aside to allow others on there, certainly having some turnover on these committees could be beneficial. And with that, we have one opening on air service.
I would volunteer to move from alternate to full member.
Okay. Any other?
If anybody else would like on-air service, I'd be willing to step off. I've been there for the last year. Or I'll stay on, either one.
Well, we have one opening. We'll, in the absence of anybody clamoring to get on there, Commissioner Wilson, and I would be willing to serve as an alternate if somebody else would like to be alternate. Nope. Okay. Commissioner Wilson, air service, and Miller, alternate. Budget. Anybody caring to withdraw or clamoring to be on there? If not, we'll just leave that as it is. General aviation. Do we have any interested in general aviation?
If anybody's interested in leaving, I'll be happy to move from alternate to one of the positions. If not, I'll stay as alternate.
I would be willing to move to alternate if you want to move to primary on there. We can
Okay.
Swap.
Personally, I'm still thinking about the bacon and the potatoes.
You didn't have dinner tonight.
I didn't, no.
I know it makes your head spin, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Ground transportation, we have a opening.
I have a question. Does that When's the last time that met? What did it do?
Thank you, Gab.
It's probably not met for a year and a half. 2 years,
2.
last November, I believe.
And what type of topics does that committee deal with?
Tracy, would you like, I'll have the operations manager
Oh,
answer
this is a
that.
good one. Yes.
Funny you should ask. We typically deal with ground transportation regulations for cabs, limos, and what have you. When we stopped meeting, there was a new ground transportation system, an entire new set of rules, regs, and fees that was proposed. And it's been in the city attorney's office for a while. They had other things to work on, very high priority things for the city. We expect that committee to meet again this year because we've just got some word back from city attorney's office on the package that's been over there, and we'll be circling the wagons to relook at that. So I would expect this group to meet this coming year a couple of times, and it will definitely be dealing with the ground transportation system rules, regulations, and how it's managed.
And that primarily applies to taxis, limos, buses.
That's correct. Thank you for the clarification. I'm referring to commercial ground transportation.
Okay. Just curious.
Of the non-aviation kind.
Of the non.
Does not involve taxiways, ramps.
Taxi cabs, not ways.
Any interest in the ground transportation? Twist anybody's arm.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Lease review, we have one opening. Anybody with property management experience here that isn't already on there?
I don't have
I'm going to
it.
recommend Dolores if she will do it.
For which?
Lease review.
Lease review.
Okay. Sure.
Interested in that?
Sure.
Okay. Any other?
I'll stay on as alternate.
Okay. Very good. Commissioner Johnson, lease review, master plan.
I would move to alternate if Commissioner Hopkins would like to go on.
I would certainly like to go on.
Okay, then I'll be happy
Great.
to slither off,
Thank
so
you.
to speak.
Excellent. I think he's having been on there as a GA representative throughout most of that process. I think that'd be
Right, I was,
excellent.
went through all of the big, long meetings.
Yeah. Noise abatement. There's not a lot of activity on that committee right now.
We meet 4 times a year, every year.
Okay.
The guy with the auto dialer's gone?
He's been gone for a while.
How many calls a month did we have then?
800 and something from him, but that was a while back.
Oh, so it's been pretty quiet.
We still get some complaints, but I would say overall it's been a good situation. Most of our pilots are pretty great about trying to do the right thing, which doesn't mean people don't complain, but they're doing what they can.
Okay. Well, I think that subcommittee only has 2, I believe. Okay. So we don't need to take any action there. Public relations.
I'd really like to be on that.
I bet you would. Okay, Commissioner Johnson, public relations. Excellent. And one other topic, I think, while we're on this topic, I think within this item, we would like to start moving towards having chairs of the subcommittees to convene and conduct those meetings. So I don't know if we need to take an action to do that.
It would be, if it's acceptable to commission, it would be nice just to identify a chair for each one of the subcommittees. That way staff could communicate directly with the chair in arranging meetings and scheduling those, if that would work.
I will volunteer for chair of the air service.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if we would need to appoint the chairs at this meeting, or if that could just be done at those committees.
As the meetings are
as
held?
The meeting, the
But-
next meeting of that.
But if you want to use
Oh,
them to
well,
help
yeah.
coordinate the meetings,
Yeah,
it might.
she does.
Right.
Yeah, okay. No, well, that's a good point. So I guess first, are there any objections to moving to having a chair, assigning a
Nope.
chair on there? Okay, well, then we might as well just see who would like to step up to that. Air Service, I think I heard Con. Budget, I would volunteer.
I would
on that.
suggest that you chair budget.
Okay, thank you. General Aviation,
I'd like to do that.
okay. Our Curry, General Aviation, Ground Transportation.
Kurt was very active in that.
Okay, great.
Did we just volunteer him?
Volunteer
He's
him.
not here.
That'll show him.
Lease review.
I wouldn't mind.
Okay. Johnson, Chair, lease review. Master plan.
I'd like to take that.
Great. Hopkins, master plan. Noise abatement. Would you like to take that as well?
I'll take that.
Very good. Public relations.
I'll take that.
Okay, great. Well, we got
Thank
through
you.
that
Will you
expeditiously.
update somehow this document with maybe a different color?
Mabel's hard on it. We'll have it.
We'll have colors and
Okay, terrific.
codes
8 by
and
10 color
Color
glosses.
codes, yes.
charts.
Oh, and, and
We appreciate your organization.
yes. And actually, that notation for me there, that could be scratched.
Oh,
that-
good.
yeah. Okay, excellent. Any other? Nope. Great, thank you all. I think that takes us back down now to the director's report. Is that correct? I don't think we've missed anything.
That's next.
Director's report.
Just very briefly, since we've talked about passenger count, no need to belabor that one. We did have the grand opening of the downstairs expanded food and beverage facility, La Mission Cafe, earlier this year. And I do believe that that expanded service and having some liquor sales downstairs will make a big difference in their revenues and also meet the needs of the passengers and some of their concerns that have been voiced. So that's really good. Emergency training exercise, I'm going to have Tracy address that here shortly. And on the master plan, we did take the historic structures report back to Historic Landmarks Commission. Basically, we inserted a chart to clean up the airfield map so that it was easier to identify which buildings we were talking about. And they did accept that report, which was what the action that we expected them to take. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tracy to give you just a briefing of the emergency exercise that was done by the city. Yes, Commissioner Hopkins.
I think it would be interesting if you could make a note to somewhere 3 to 6 months from now, let us know what the revenue, how much additional concession money we ended up, how well
certainly.
that, because I agree with you, I presume that that could generate a significant amount of additional revenue for them and therefore for the airport.
We'll include that with our third quarter financial reports.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, emergency exercise.
The city of Santa Barbara conducted an emergency earthquake exercise. January 7, I believe, was the date. I don't have it in front of me. The airport participated. It was a citywide exercise. All of the departments participated. As we went down to the city EOC, they have a table for us in the Emergency Operations Center. It's in the main fire station on Carrillo. We opened up the airport slot. We had a small partial opening of our department operating center here where we had a person come into the DOC and we were communicating via one of our DOC laptops. We tested all our communication channels to make sure that the flow of communication between the department operating center here at the airport and the emergency operating center at the city were all working quite well, including our satellite phone. So it was a good exercise. The objective was to test the communications flow. At least that was the objective for our element, our participation in the exercise, and that was very successful. Many other city departments participated in various degrees, but it was overall a very beneficial exercise. It was nice because it was a little slower pace, so we had time to actually learn and retain.
So, good. That concludes our report. If you have any other questions or needs from us.
Other questions on the report?
I have, well, not on that report, thank you, Tracy. In terms of the staff openings, are we actively, is the assistant airport director position open? Is it,
Actually, applications were accepted through December 22, and we had, I believe, 37 applications. Half of those were not, didn't meet the basic qualifications. So we're going through now and doing a double screening to see if there are good applicants, and we'll be following up on that in the very near future.
is that an appointment that goes through the city council as well, or is it just retained?
It's through the department director.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Nothing else for me.
Other questions? All right. Thank you all. And with that, we are adjourned.